Really good leaders. And I've met a number of them. Believe it or not, in prison, in gangs, and in the drug dealing world, there are some really good leaders. I know that sounds shocking to many of you, but it is the truth. Really good leaders have this really strong ability to decenter themselves. They're capable of taking themselves out of the center of the entire fucking universe and moving themselves aside so that they can see either the group as a whole, the big picture, the goals, the dreams, whatever it is. So most of them are able to move themselves out of the center and they're able to do things like put the principles first. So, not the people, not themselves, but principles first. Put the overarching goal, the dream, the legacy, the business, whatever it is. They're able to put those things in the center and then make decisions that are based on creating the ability to make that shit happen. The problem with this is most individuals are incapable of doing this. Most individuals are very fucking small minded. And even though the entire world, the entire universe is vast, they make it seem like such a small little thing and that they're in the center of that tiny little fucking thing. So when people make it big, that's why they're slandered with, oh, he lacks empathy, which I've gotten a gang of times. He's selfish. He screws people over. He's ruthless. All these things. The problem is the people that are hitting those guys with those labels. They're just very small-minded people. When you put your principles first, then that means if anybody violates those principles, then they go on the chopping block. Other people will say, oh, well, he lacks empathy. No, this individual was not reaching the criteria, the threshold criteria, in order to be a part of this organization, a part of my life, whatever the thing may be. They were not willing, I wasn't willing to help them because they weren't helping themselves. Whatever the case may be, and then now you lack empathy. When you're able to put your goals first, your dreams first, your legacy first, believe it or not, that takes a decentering because you can't live your life just about you. To do all of those things, you have to be addicted to the work. You have to love the work. If you don't love the work, you're never going to make those things happen. You don't come to love the work because you're at the center. You come to love the work because the goal is at the center. You've moved yourself aside. I'm willing to give up partying. I'm willing to give up, always being around friends, politicking and kicking it, having a good time, chasing women down, all of these things. You're willing to put yourself to the side. You recognize that money doesn't have an importance, right? Because money is something that accompanies this thing. You're capable of recognizing that the goal is first. Most people cannot do that. So when they see an individual who's capable of doing that, not just capable at all, but does it and regularly does it, they're like, oh, well, he screwed these people over. No, he didn't screw those people over. Those people did either their portion and their portion alone, and they felt that they needed more money for it, more recognition for it, whatever the case may be, because in their little minds, they need to be in the center. They didn't get enough. I didn't get enough. I didn't get enough. I should have got a few more dollars. It doesn't matter if we're talking about you should have got another $50, another $100, another $50,000, another $5 million. It's one thing if your idea was completely stolen or something like that. That understandable. But if you were paid and you were given recognition and you just don't feel like it was enough because the individual who's moving the thing forward is more concerned with the thing itself, that's you being small minded. That's those people being small minded. And if you're one of these people that's capable of decentering yourself, not everybody is capable, most people are not. If you can decenter yourself and put other things in the forefront of your life, you should be in a position of leadership because very few people are capable of doing that. The problem is you're going to have to recognize that people are going to slander you on the way to making that thing happen. Everybody will say that it's all about your ego or you're selfish or whatever it is. But the truth is, you didn't make that happen because you only thought about yourself. You make it happen because you're capable of thinking about other things that are higher than yourself. So you're willing to put in the work, you're willing to chase it down. There's always going to be somebody who's at the forefront of that thing, and that's where problems come into play. You have someone like, a showrunner, someone who just runs the show, and then everybody mentions that person. And it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if you look at 50 Cent or Leslie Headland. They're looking at the showrunner, and then the showrunner gets all the credit on one side, that'd be 50, and all the blame on the other side, and that'd be Leslie Headland. So you're looking at one person, even though there's probably 20 people involved in the writing and all these other things, and you're only looking at them. And then you look at individuals like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. People are like, oh, well, this one individual screwed these individuals over. This person didn't get paid. This person saying he didn't get paid by this people because he did these things. But the truth is when you recognize that somebody just does a portion of the work, or when somebody just deserves a portion of what's happening, and you give them the credit for that and nothing else, they feel like they deserve more. If you're one of the few people who can put yourself out, and you could put the things and other things in front of you, and you could take yourself out of the center of it, you're one of the few. You're one of the rare. For everyone else, keep in mind that those people are going to slander you all the way to the top, and it won't matter. They're always going to do it. There's always going to be these people complaining and always saying these things because they feel that no matter how big the world is, they should be at the center of it. And they make it seem like the world is small because they're talking about just this one little portion of whatever they did. Now, if you're screwing somebody over completely, if you're taking somebody's patent, if you're taking here's a good idea. Here's some examples. You have Todd McFarlane, who, by all accounts, just wanted the respect that he felt that he was deserved, that the companies that he worked for weren't giving him. So he defected with other artists and started his own comic book company. He was only worried about, his portion of it. He only worked on his specific IP. He didn't try to build a bunch of other IPs or anything like that. He just worked on the one. But he was constantly able to make sacrifices for the moment to get something bigger in the future. He had a good, cushy job with Marvel. He defected and started his own company. That could have went wrong. That went well. He had an idea. His IP was his IP. He decided to bring in some people to work with him, one of whom was Neil Gaiman. And Neil Gaiman, when he saw the movie and all this other stuff, the movie flopped. And he still saw these characters that he quote unquote helped create, but I mean, you're working on somebody else's IP. But he claimed that he wasn't getting enough money and recognition for those characters because he co-created them. Now, the money flopped. I mean, the movie flopped. There was no money. There was no money. Neil Gaiman is an amazing author, and I'm not trying to take nothing from that man. But no money was made. But he still felt like he needed to get some, he needed some. He needed some money for that. He needed royalties for nothing. Todd McFarlane sold the screen rights or licensed the screen rights to that movie for $1. $1. So that he could try to keep creative control over the movie that was being made. Obviously, that wasn't probably the best idea because the movie flopped. But either which way, Neil Gaiman felt like he needed more for it than he had gotten, even though he was paid from the beginning. And I believe he was paid $100,000. $100,000 to write for Todd McFarlane. $100,000 in the movie, in the comic book industry is insanely stupid. This man still felt that he didn't get enough. A little bit down the road, Todd McFarlane sacrifices for the greater good again. He buys a fucking baseball for $3 million. Nobody had ever paid anywhere near, it was like over, I think it was like 7 times what anybody had ever paid in history for sports memorabilia. Something like 7 times, possibly even more. But he bought a baseball for $3 million. Now, he didn't have $3 million. He wasn't balling like that. It took everything that he had, and he made a lot of money, but he didn't have just like $3 million for a baseball. But it took all of his money to buy that baseball. He bought the baseball as a gamble. He wanted to make this guy, if you guys look up his story's pretty amazing. He disrupted the entire toy industry because they told him no. And then he basically created the collectibles market for adults that we have now. So all these adults that collect, Wolverine figurines and all that other shit, he basically started that. He wanted to do sports figurines. So he sacrificed everything that he had to buy that ball for $3 million, knowing that people would want to meet the guy, the crazy guy that spent $3 million for a baseball. And it worked. It fucking worked. Now he's making figurines, sports figurines. Got what he wanted. Neil Gaiman saw that he had spent $3 million on a baseball. All he was concerned with was, I'm not getting my money. Small-minded individual. He's an amazing fucking author, but he was paid $100,000 to write for Todd McFarlane for Spawn. And he still felt that that wasn't enough, even though that was an extraordinary price for the time, especially. Even nowadays, that would be insane. But back then, this is 20-something years ago, truly insane. He finally brought the lawsuit against Todd McFarlane. It wasn't the only lawsuit that this guy faced. It wasn't the only setback that he faced. He also got sued by an NFL, I think it was an NHL guy. He got sued by somebody else. The dude, he just was taken down by other people that only were concerned with themselves. That being said, those people would say it the opposite. Neil Gaiman would argue easily, well, I wasn't being given what I was supposed to be given. It was me. But Todd McFarlane never showed ever once that it was about money, ever. And a good way to know that is when everything fell apart. Because everything eventually fell apart for him and Spawn. When everything fell apart, do you know what this dude did for the last 20-something years or whatever after it all fell apart? He kept drawing Spawn. He stayed with the thing that he started to begin with. I believe it's still under Image Comics. He still does it. He's still doing the same thing. Now, just recently, he's had a turnaround in his fate has, he tried to remake another figurine, I believe. And I think it's turned things around for him. The point is, other people were only concerned about themselves. This man was consistently looking at what the future looks like. And so he was able to take himself and move himself out of the center. Because you don't gamble your present on your future if you're only worried about yourself. You know that because everybody that just thinks about themselves right now is sitting on their couch playing a fucking video game and only concerned or going out last night and getting fucking drunk or chasing some chick down or whatever the hell you guys are doing because you're living for yourself in the moment right now. When you're looking at a big picture, you actually move yourself out of the center because he could have bankrupted easily just by buying that baseball. Just by leaving his good job and starting his own company, could have went wrong. He had, I believe, his kid already by that time. He could have put himself, his kid, and his wife in a terrible situation. It happened to work. When he bought that baseball, he could have put his family in jeopardy again. It just happened to work. But he was able to take himself out of the center and be like, okay, well, we're building towards something bigger. So this is what we're going to do. The guy was actually smart, man. He disrupted a number of things because he was willing to take himself out of the center. Now, that's a good example of somebody taking himself out of the center, looking at the big picture and trying to build something bigger. But you can also look at, unfortunately, I don't remember these guys' names, and I'm sorry for this, but there was a guy who either did create Batman or helped create Batman, and another guy took credit for it. Now, I don't remember these guys' names, and I do know that I don't know if the dude ever fully admitted what he did to that dude, but after the guy died, the guy that supposedly either helped create it or created it, after he died, then the guy that supposedly stole it was like, okay, well, the truth is, he never got the credit that he deserved while he was alive. But now those are two different things, right? So if you have somebody who stole your shit, and you didn't get any credit for it, you didn't get the payment that you're supposed to get for it, or whatever it may be, then that's an issue. So these are two sides in one industry where you have an individual that was able to take himself out of the center, consistently gamble, and put the thing first. He paid, and it wasn't just Neil Gaiman, if I remember correctly, it was like 4 people, $100,000 a piece, or some shit like that. Maybe it was $100,000 between the 4 of them, but that's still $25,000 to write a comic book. Whatever it was exorbitant, but I'm pretty sure it was $100,000 a piece. Bro, you were paid your money. That man was paid his money. but he still felt like he needed more because he was looking only out for himself. He never bothered to wonder what that other guy was doing. He saw him spend $3 million, and in his mind, he's like, "But I didn't get my money, bro. You got your money up front." A lot of people will do that, and you're going to have to think in those kinds of ways. You're going to have to put your principles first. You lied, you stole from the company, you did any of those things, you got to go. I'm sorry, mom, whoever it was. No, you're not allowed. This is unacceptable. You got to get the hell out. Mom, brother, sister, daughter, son, girlfriend, wife, it doesn't matter who it is. That person transgresses and breaks a boundary that should not be broken. You got to put your principles first. I'm sorry, but you have to leave. Not only do you have to leave whatever we're working on, you got to leave my life. Or even if it's not in this for the business or for whatever you're trying to do, you violate the principles of my life, you have to get the fuck out of it. It doesn't matter who you are. You have to be able to operate that way. You're going to be ruthless. You're going to lack empathy. It's okay, just accept the label and move on. As long as you're not in a position like I was once in, where you have to answer to a team of therapists, then you'll be fine. For individuals that, if you are not smart enough and not savvy enough to make the correct decisions with the things that you're creating, man, that's your fault. There are lots of people that don't get to do these things over again. In the music industry, especially, there's a lot of people. They will want to push an artist. There will be other artists that could steal some of the market share from that artist. They will sign the other artists just to shelve them, which means to take them and put them so they'll never come out, but they own them in a contract just so they can continue to pushing out the artists that they want to push out. You don't always get the ability to try and do things over again. The guy for the comic book world, another good one is the Superman guys. These dudes, they were getting paid well and they were happy with what they had done in the beginning. It wasn't until they recognized how much money Superman was actually making and then they regretted it. But they weren't sad about it when they first did it. And if you're not savvy enough and you're not smart enough to create something and then recognize that you need to study the business before you sign any paperwork. That's what any artist will tell you now. Man, learn the business before you sign any paperwork and never sign any paperwork without your lawyer present. That's what they'll tell you. You don't always get this time to do things over. As a person, if you're moving forward and you have something, so for you small-minded people, just keep that in mind. If you got taken advantage of, no, you were just stupid. That's your fault. You should have learned the business for whatever it was you were trying to get involved in. If you've been paid up front for something, then that is all you're supposed to get. That's kind of, I'm digressing a little bit because this is not for you people. This is for the other people. For those of you that are trying to build something, those of you that can decenter yourself and pay attention to your principles first, the goal first, the legacy first, the impact first, the dream, whatever it is, the company, when you're capable of doing that, just remember, do not feel bad for the small-minded individuals that are going to slander you on your way to the top because they couldn't handle that they weren't at the center of whatever part of it that they felt that they should have got more credit for or more money for. Unfortunately, most people, they care more about money than they do anything else because they don't know how money works. So they think actual money is important. So that's what they're going to come after you for. When you're rich enough, man, you don't really have to worry about it. I think it's 50 Cent. He said he's paid, I think, $24 million so far in his career over legal representation for being sued and stuff at different points. I'm sure other people are probably much higher. Like Eminem is probably way higher. That's an example, though. Once you get rich enough to where you can just, roll with the punches, pay people their stupid little fucking money that they think is important, and move forward, it's no big deal. But when you're on the way up, that makes it a lot harder. So keep in mind, guys, because like what happened to Todd McFarlane, he got waylaid by other people that stopped the ability to make the progress that he was making. Now, I'm not saying it was totally their fault, but I am saying that he could have bounced back had he not faced the legal problems that he had faced. It would have been an easier time to bounce back because I believe the NHL guy, he lost like $15 million to that guy. And I think it was for using his name or something like that. So when you're on your way up, recognize that you're going to be labeled like this and that you need to pay attention to the people that you're working with. Make sure you sign all these people to very serious contracts. Pay the money for the contracts. You should do the same thing. Learn the business. Sticking with the music industry, Percy Miller, Master P from No Limit Records. This guy, I believe, was the first one to do it. He paid, if I understand correctly, this information could be slightly false or slightly incorrect, but I believe he paid a lawyer like $25,000 for that lawyer to explain this to him in less than 5 minutes. But he made, I believe, is what's called an admin deal, or there's another one too that I forget the name of. But he made so much money because instead of taking money up front, he made a deal where they got 15% and he got 85% of music rights, ownership rights to his music, so that, but he didn't take anything up front. He made a lot more money. He basically disrupted the music industry by what he did and taught other people to do the same thing. So there are other people that have done those same deals. I think 21 Savage did a 95.5 deal, and that's definitely an admin deal. I don't remember what the other one was called. I believe that's what he did. It was a 95.5. Anyways, the point is, if you learn the business, make sure to get your contracts and get them signed. You'll have less to worry about. Neil Gaiman was able to sue Todd McFarlane because he never signed him to a contract that was work for hire. Now, in his mind, I get where he was coming from because I'm like that as well. I think in terms of collaboration. But when I think in terms of collaboration, I don't think about it's my brain isn't coming back to me and later and be so I could be like later, like, oh man, this fool's probably gonna be greedy and come back later and try to get more money. Because you don't think like that. When you don't think like that, then other people do. That's how you kind of get hit. The problem is they're going to label you like that because they think like that. And so that's how they see it. The point is, on your way to the top, if you're climbing to the top, if you're trying to get to the top of something, unfortunately, you're not all going to be lucky and get the correct partnerships. There's a lot of people that you can look at that they didn't get the correct partnerships in the beginning. Eventually, they got the correct partnerships and they happen to struggle and limp through the whole thing and then they made it big. Sometimes people are smart enough to get things done correctly from the beginning. It's hard when you don't know what you're doing when you're first building. If you're capable of decentering, you should be a leader and you should be trying to think of terms of impact because you will be willing to sacrifice what everybody else thinks is important now for what is bigger later and greater later. Recognize that people, you're going to lose relationships because other people are not going to be able to recognize what you are and how you're able to operate because all they see is themselves in every single scenario. Well, you lack empathy. Why? Because I'm choosing not to side with you in your stupidity because you did something wrong and or you were holding me back, or if I let you into my life, you would hold me back, and so I keep you at a distance. So now I lack empathy. I'm ruthless because I'm able to recognize that the big picture is more important than whatever little stupid shit you got going on. So recognize the smaller minded people, they cannot put themselves outside of themselves. They can't do that. They can't make the world as big as it is because it has to be tiny because it circles it's only this far. The world only goes this far with them. It don't go any further. They don't even go as far as their hands can reach. It's right here at all points in time. So keep that in mind, guys. I wish every one of you the best of luck if you're trying to create something big, if you're trying to make a huge impact. Just recognize that unfortunately, man, the people that are around you and the people that you utilize to help you get that thing started and move it forward and make a bigger impact, man, those people aren't going to be able to think like you, and they're probably going to be the ones to screw you over and make your shit fucked up and make it harder to get there. So I wish you guys the best of luck.